Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents. In today's episode, parents forced me to be successful in order to take care of my sick brother. Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class, don't blame me when they get hurt. Vent, my entitled mother went to extremes to ruin my childhood over one mistake. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Parents forced me to be successful in order to take care of my sick brother. This actually happened a long time ago. My parents have 3 sons and I'm the oldest. I've always been an above-average student, a good boy, etc. My medium brother is a disaster, he's in jail right now. My youngest brother was born with a disability and he will never be able to manage his own life. From ages 16 to 22 approx. My parents always told me that I had to take care of my little brother when they die. Now, I understand that the state will take care of him. However, today, during a therapy session, I told my group why I was so scared of talking to my parents again, and the therapist told me that my parents were wrong to put such a burden in my shoulders. I've never realized that before. Edit, context. I live in a country where social security granted by the state is very good. I know that when my brother grows up he'll be taken care of by people who get paid to do so. I didn't know that as a kid. Of course, I'll still be in contact with him, call him regularly, go for walks together and stuff. That therapy session was actually part of my rehab program. I'm there because I'm unable to take care of myself. I'd been diagnosed depression and alcoholism. I'm not able to take care of another person, especially a disabled person, in my condition. I've taken my brother out of the sea while he had an epileptic seizure. I've made tournaments to get money for research on his disease. I've worked as a lot of things as a volunteer in the event my parents organized for research. I've spent countless days taking care of him while my parents went camping or needed a break while my friends were doing teenage stuff. I've spent several nights at the hospital as a kid, unsure if my brother was gonna survive that night. I've translated a lot of medical-related documents to French and English for sharing the research progress with other foundations around the world, all while having to graduate school or university. Longest example coming to mind, 90-page research progress summary. Had to be translated in less than 2 months. I can describe you even what are the incorrect pieces of DNA in my brother's body and the process that causes his brain to work improperly, while I have no idea about my own disease, multiple sclerosis. I've learned to type with special characters for mentally challenged people in order to teach stuff to my brother. I've battled a clown with wooden swords in a stage in a raise awareness event, an event my parents took me to only because I'm the only person in the family able to speak fluently the language the event was in. In exchange, my parents gave me no attention as a kid, because I was already the good one, until I stopped getting grades in university. There, they started pressing me until I had to leave home, because my dad wouldn't allow me to have any free time. While I was away, I tried meeting my brother as many times as I could, even if it meant meeting my parents and their hurtful comments too. Some months ago, living in a big city, I called my mom and she made me want to jump into the metro railway just as the metro was approaching. After I got diagnosed depression and the doctors recommended me to go to a rehab center, my extended family and some friends helped me and supported me. However, my parents opposed that, because I would be wasting 2 years. Yes, your parents were cruel to just tell you that your brother will be your responsibility when they die. There was enough time, and still is, for them to get insurances/savings in place to provide for his care after they're gone. Sheltered homes exist. So do government homes for the disabled or mentally handicapped. To put all that pressure onto young shoulders is ridiculously uncaring to you. As a mother of a special needs child and a neurodivergent child, I am utterly disgusted by your parents. You know, we see so many stories on Reddit of parents who do this. It's especially lovely to read a response from a parent of a neurodivergent child and a neurotypical child who is doing it right. I know there are many, but since you're here now, thanks for being a good parent. It's often a thankless job, but we see you. OP, just watch out for them drawing up a will or guardianship papers naming you as his guardian once they pass. Just remember that you're free to refuse it and don't feel guilty about it because, whilst he is your brother, you don't have to give up your future to care for him. Thank you for saying that. Most people don't know or understand that. You don't have a legal obligation to accept any bequests from a will, whether it be money or a timeshare. You can refuse. I honestly would be happy and proud to be the legal guardian of my brother. I just wouldn't be able to take care of him, give him all his drugs, have him watch 24/7, etc. Your parents should be saving money and looking into group homes for him when they can no longer take care of him. Your brother is not your responsibility. And they should do that now. Not wait to become too feeble to care for him or for the last of them to die. If they do, then he has to cope with losing both parents and transitioning to a new living situation. Much better that he should transition now while they're still here to help him. And do they know that you won't be taking care of him? Or are they still assuming that you will step up when they die? Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class, don't blame me when they get hurt. Hi. First time posting here, but boy do I have some stories. Also sorry for the long post, I tend to give too many details. I work as an instructor teaching parkour and free running basics to small kids, ages 2 to 6, and most of my classes are in private institutions like schools or specialized gyms. Now I say basics, but it really is more bodily control and perception than bona fide parkour since they're really young. I separate kids based on age and skill into different classes which challenge them accordingly, having the older kids dip their toes into actual parkour and free running skills. Now onto the story. I had this mother, henceforth EM, of 2 kids, EK1 and EK2, ages 2 and 3 respectively, come for a test class to see if the kids are interested. The kids enjoy the class since I try to make them both challenging and fun by playing games where they have to traverse obstacle courses, and I try to set up scenarios for them to use their imagination, such as the pirate ship is sinking. We have to jump onto the lifeboats, etc. The administration later lets me know they enrolled and all is well. Now, something you have to know about my classes is that even though they are taught in a special, order-made room and I make sure most surfaces are padded and am super paranoid about accidents, so I do my best to keep a safe environment, sometimes kids can take a fall, especially if they aren't following instructions or throw tantrums. This was the case with EK1 and 2 since they were always refusing to listen instructions and threw tantrums when I tried to explain why they couldn't just run off to play in the room as if it was just a playground, which it absolutely isn't. After a couple of weeks of this, EM comes into my classroom to tell me, not ask mind you, that her kids are ready for the advanced class, which is kids aged 5 to 6, because they have grown bored of the kiddie class since they are so much better than the other kids, they are not. I politely let her know that although they are indeed pretty active kids, they first have to become responsible of their actions since they tend to push kids around and not listen to instructions, and therefore they are not yet ready since the older kids class is way tougher and I can't just follow 2 kids around to take care of them and neglect the rest of the class since there could be an accident. Now these are not in any way big groups, I only take groups of 5 kids at most since it's all I can handle on my own to make sure every kid is as safe as possible, but having to take care of underage kids and leaving other 3 kids unattended is a big no-no in my book. Anyway, EM doesn't seem to take my words kindly but accepts my decision, or so I thought. Next week I come in to have the receptionist tell me EM had basically thrown a tantrum to have her kids go into the advanced class anyway despite my warnings, and asks me if I can just let it slide this time. Obviously, I'm not okay with this as it endangers not only EKs but other kids as well, but I can see her storming into my classroom again, angrier this time if I say no, so I ask the front desk to have her sign an additional waiver to the one she already had to sign when enrolling the kids. The day comes when I have to teach the advanced class and in come marching with a smug grin none other than EM and EKs, I welcome them and start my class, which as I said is way more demanding and has some actual parkour techniques sprinkled in. It would be unfair to the age-appropriate kids to downplay the class just because these entitled kids enrolled, so I don't, however I keep a close eye on them to avoid any issues. That day, the kids had to clear a small gap jump and latch onto an edge wall and shimmy along while hanging, picture hanging movement in the Assassin's Creed series. Everything but the floor is padded, of course, however, it is a substantial fall for kids that age, about 1.5 meters. As I'm helping one of the older kids shimmy along, I see the next in line to make the jump is the elder of the entitled siblings, and I ask her to wait for me so that I can spot her jump in case her hands slip or she doesn't clear the gap. She starts throwing a tantrum about how she's a big girl now and she can do it on her own, to which I respond to just let me be there to make sure she doesn't get hurt. I run back to her after helping the other kid reach the ground and help her reach the wall since she couldn't clear the gap, to which she goes absolutely mad and storms out of the classroom. 5 minutes later she comes back in with EM demanding that I let her jump on her own. I once again explain why that is a bad idea and we run the circuit once again. Again I am helping the kid lapping before her and ask her to wait for me, but instead of listening she jumps into the wall, fails to clear the gap, crashes into the wall face first and then plops into the ground knocking the wind out of her. I rush to check if she's unhurt, which thankfully she is aside from the fall, and she starts swiping at me and once she recovers starts bawling her eyes out and storms out of the classroom again. Once again I'm faced with the EM demanding to know why I let her daughter get hurt during my class and starts accusing me of being negligent and incompetent and that she'll take measures against the school and me. I tell her I understand she's upset, but I asked the kid to stay still and wait for me, but she refused to listen, and to remember that I warned her they were not yet ready for this class as they did not follow instructions which were meant to keep them safe. EM keeps going about how I can expect to be fired soon and the usual entitled parent monologue and then leaves. I tell the front desk what just happened and ask them to check the cameras in my classroom so that they can have proof in case she really tries something legally, and reminded them she had signed a second waiver. Thankfully she never did and she never came back even though she paid the whole month in advance. I have some more stories of this kind since extracurricular activities tend to have these kind of incidents and draw in entitled people, so let me know if you want to hear more and I'll try to post some of mine and co-workers' stories in here. I keep thinking these entitled idiots are rehearsing for their competing for the Darwin Awards. So she was there in the room watching her kid not making the jump and then demanded you to let her do it herself. Delusional much? That's the worst part, she wasn't even in the observation deck along with the other parents, she was at the reception on her phone according to the front desk. Let me get this straight. This mom wanted her child to do the jump herself and not have OP help her. But when the child falls and gets hurt, the mom says OP's in the wrong because they didn't help her? Vent, my entitled mother went to extremes to ruin my childhood over one mistake. I've been lurking on this subreddit for a while, and I never thought I'd have a story to share here. But here I am, needing to get this off my chest. Brace yourselves, because this is a wild ride involving my entitled mother who took things to a whole new level just because of one mistake I made as a child. Background: I'm now in my 20s, reflecting on a childhood that was tainted by my mother's entitled behavior. Back when I was around 10 years old, I made a mistake that kids sometimes do. I accidentally broke a vase in our living room while playing ball indoors. It was an honest mistake, but my mother's reaction was anything but reasonable. Instead of treating it as a learning opportunity or a chance to teach me about accidents, my mother unleashed a torrent of entitlement that would haunt me for years. She started berating me, calling me names, and then she did the unimaginable, she grounded me for a whopping 6 months. Yes, you read that right, half a year for a broken vase. But wait, it gets worse. She didn't stop at just grounding me. She went on a rampage to ensure that my life was miserable during those 6 months. She barred me from seeing my friends, attending any extracurricular activities, and worst of all, she confiscated anything remotely enjoyable, my books, games, and even my art supplies. It felt like a prison sentence for a mistake that any kid could have made. She would hold this mistake over my head for years to come, using it to guilt-trip me and control my actions. She'd bring it up in front of family and friends, painting me as some sort of delinquent, all over a simple accident. The psychological toll this took on me was immense, and I still find myself grappling with self-esteem issues because of her behavior. Looking back, it's clear that my mother's entitlement and extreme measures weren't about teaching me a lesson or correcting my behavior. It was about her need for control and dominance, even at the expense of her own child's well-being. I'm sharing this story now to remind everyone that sometimes, entitled parents can take things to an extreme that has lasting effects on their children. If you're dealing with a similar situation, remember that you're not alone. Don't let their entitlement define you or your worth. And to all the parents out there, please, let's strive to teach our kids through understanding, compassion, and healthy discipline rather than resorting to extreme measures that only breed resentment. Thanks for letting me vent, Reddit. Stay strong, everyone. I kind of feel you need to go back to her house now and drop a vase right in front of her. Honestly, after reading this, I would wait until the next time your mother starts talking about this publicly, especially in front of family. Then you pipe in, yes, and was it worth it? Because your punishment over this accidental loss of a material item was borderline abusive. As a result, I have lost all admiration for you as my mother. And the fact you used this still as a weapon to embarrass me is proof of your intentions to me as your child. Ugh, I am bitter for you about this OP. I hope you find closure. I think it was abusive, not just borderline. Hope she doesn't have to depend on you for a place to live in her golden years. /S. Yeah, that is textbook straight to the nursing home behavior if I've ever seen it. Why won't my kids visit me anymore? This reminds me. When I was about 8 or so, I stood on a chair arm to take down something too high for me to reach. One of the arms broke. My dad said that my allowance was gone until it was paid for. 2 years passed and I asked him if I could get an allowance again. He had no idea what I was talking about and I had to remind him. Of course, this was the same father who would give me and my brother a $5 bill each week to cover our bus to and from school and any lunch we wanted a whole $2. And then would show up within the next hour and tell us that he needed cash and would give us a check. Which necessitated us walking half a mile to the grocery store on a Sunday to cash because, surprise, surprise, the bus driver wouldn't take a check. Sigh. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.